Hey guys, how's it going? Okay, this is a little clip that I found MSNBC, The Ed Show. And I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that they have to say. I think it's kind of interesting. Of course, you all know that I'm pro-Constitution and pro-Second Amendment, and I believe that those who are against the Second Amendment or against the Constitution should be held responsible in a court of law. Anyone proposing any kind of infringement on the right to bear arms should be held responsible, and that includes every single level of government. The founders were very clear that the oath to defend the Constitution includes enemies from outside the country and inside the country. So here we go.
Thanks for staying with us tonight. The 113th Congress did not vote on or even debate any gun legislation today. They didn't even have to think about it. But the children who survived the massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School had to confront their fears and go back to school. It's been only 21 days since a gunman slaughtered 20 first graders.
He's just very concerned that the first day of Congress they didn't pass or at least talk about some gun laws or some way to take away the right of law-abiding citizens. Remember, only law-abiding citizens follow laws, so any laws that they should pass would only affect law-abiding citizens. To believe for 1 second that a criminal can't get hold of something because it's illegal is ludicrous. We've proven it over and over again with all kinds of laws that ban drugs, different kinds of guns and weapons, all readily accessible. Anything that is illegal can be had. So when they ban a gun or a weapon or a magazine from a gun, they're taking it away from you because you're a law-abiding citizen. You're gonna abide by the rules. You're not going to go out and get the you can take a magazine that only holds 10 bullets and modify it to hold 15. In fact, during the 94 gun ban, that's what they did. They took regular magazines and they just modified them, put a little dent in them so that the bullets can't go past a certain level. Well, that doesn't work in a situation where somebody is willing to open it up and bang out the dent. So if you think that you can ban them, it's ridiculous. It's only going to work. It's only going to be effective against those people who are law-abiding. And they say, who needs a gun that can shoot more than 10 bullets? Well, let me ask you, if 5 or 10 people were attacking your house, gang members, would you want a gun that could hold 30 rounds, or would you want a gun that can hold 10 rounds? Or let's say there's only one guy, but now you've used your 10th round. Wouldn't it have been nice to have the ability and not have the government tell you, hey, I'm sorry, but you've used your 10th round and the criminal has 30 rounds, so you're dead?
7 adults. Republicans have remained quiet while Americans set a record for gun purchases last month. The Bushmaster.
Americans set a record at buying guns, but they're going to tell us that their polls, they go out and they poll 800 people and they ask them, and of course they're very careful to ask, a mixture of people so they get the right answers, whether guns should be banned or high capacity clips. And remember, magazines, a magazine is not high capacity if it has 30 rounds, because that's a standard magazine. 100-round magazine for, say, an AK-47 or an AR-15, that would definitely be a high capacity. But a 30-round is not a high capacity. So when they're saying they want to ban high capacity, anything over 10, that's not high capacity. It's standard, and it's not military. It's not assault. If they shoot semi-automatic, every time you pull the trigger, one bullet comes out. That is not an assault weapon. An assault weapon actually allows you to shoot multiple bullets with one pull. So you can pull the trigger and let her go. One thing I wanted to point out real quick is it wasn't an AR-15 that was found in the trunk of that car. And if you watch the video, you can see how an 15 is racked, and you don't rack it from the side like they showed on the video. There's two little things in the back that you pull. Totally different. And if there's videos that people explain that, and show how it's done, the difference between an AR and an AK. So, you don't have to take my word for it. Just take a look. There's several videos that came out just recently about that.
Gun purchases last month. The Bushmaster, like the one Adam Lanza used at Sandy Hook, is reportedly a hot seller. But the latest poll shows 58% of Americans want stricter gun laws. Support for gun control is up 15% since October.
So these polls were done December 19th through the 22nd. So of course, they're trying to test to see, they want to get the best results right after a big shooting, because they know that those results will wane within days. In fact, shortly after a big shooting like that, people forget about it very soon. The newspapers and the TVs have gone on and on because they want to remind people about that, because their agenda is to disarm America. And since that's their agenda, it goes against the Constitution, because the Second Amendment clearly states that the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. And the word infringed means questioned. So the government doesn't have a right to even question our right. And if you look at it, a lot of the people who argue that you don't need this or you don't need that to go hunting, you don't need more than 10. Look, we're not hunting, and everybody knows what the Second Amendment's for. It's to keep the government honest. We should be equal to the government. And believe me, the guns that we have today are not equal. If anything, we should be strengthening our Second Amendment, straightening it out, and making sure that the government is on edge, that the government doesn't have the opinion that they can just trample all over the people's rights and the people can't do anything about it. Because right now, we're right on the edge of that. In fact, I feel that the government's already there. When the president thinks that he can just go into a country and start a war and say, well, tough with your Constitution. It's just a piece of paper. I'll do what I want. And the people don't do anything about it, and the Congress does nothing about it. Well, then that's set a precedence, and that means that he can do it anytime he wants, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it can only get worse from here. Our founders and all of the leaders of every state, before they came into the Union, the main thing they were concerned with was standing armies. And they said there should only be a standing army in times of war. As soon as the war's over, get rid of the armies, because they are very dangerous to our liberties. But the people in today's society don't seem to realize how dangerous it is. And we don't have any real wars except against ideas like terrorism or drugs. And these armies are getting more and more powerful inside our country. Anti-drug and gun protection, ATF, and the FBI and the CIA and all of the alphabet soup agencies that are under the presidency that take away our rights as individuals. They can come into your house, they can bust down your doors. And the more gun laws we make, or we allow them to make, the more power they have over us to come bust down our doors and say, oh, you didn't have any guns that were illegal? Oh, okay. Sorry, we didn't realize.
Think the calls for reform would convince Congress. The Democrats in the House plan to introduce a bill to ban the sale of magazines which hold more than 10 rounds at a time. Senator Dianne Feinstein will introduce a similar bill. It would ban certain firearms with magazines holding over 10 rounds. We're not...
Well, if you want to find out, Senator Feinstein's bill is much more comprehensive than that. She wants to register all guns. So basically what she wants to do is require everybody with a gun to bring your gun in. And when you bring your gun in, they're going to fingerprint you. See, now, in our society here in Florida, the federal government just stays out of it. It's none of their business. The state sets the gun laws, and the gun laws are only by the state. Our state actually set a law that said any local government that creates a gun law, it's invalid. So only the state makes the laws on these. But now he wants the federal government, or she wants the federal government to come in and force this. Now, they're going to check on a lot of things when they check. They're not only going to take your fingerprints, they may do drug testing because, of course, if you smoke a joint in the last 30 days, you would have marijuana in your bloodstream, and that would mean that you couldn't own a gun legally. So the federal government would just take your gun at that point. And, of course, I believe 40% of Americans have, had a taste or been around people that have been smoking it in the last 30 days, so they would probably test positively, so they would not be able to own guns. They also want to do some mental screening, so the federal government gets to decide whether you're mentally stable, and the idea that you want to own guns is kind of a mentally unstable thing according to the federal government, so they might just take your guns because you think you should have guns. They might ask you, there's going to be little questionnaires. They might ask you a question like, do you believe that the Second Amendment protects your right to defend yourself from the government? And you would say yes, because that's what it's all about. And they would say, oh, you're psychotic. We're going to have to take your gun.
Talking about banning the average gun here, folks. We're talking about banning the kinds of assault weapons Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold used to murder fellow students in Columbine.
We have to remember, of course, that during that time, 1996, when those kids supposedly went on this rampage, it was during a gun ban. Those weapons were banned. Anything with more than 10 bullets per magazine were banned. So the fact that they had it meant that they were breaking the law. They were also breaking the law by carrying them on campus. So all the law-abiding citizens were at a disadvantage, weren't they? This is evidence. This is proof. And anybody who is stupid enough to believe these weirdos who are trying to talk us into giving up our rights for safety's sake is, it's just ridiculous. If you believe that you need to give up your rights to be safe, then you don't deserve either.
Talking about the kinds of weapons designed specifically to kill people. These guns don't require a lot of expertise to operate. We're talking about big drums packed with ammo. This guy managed to fire off 100 rounds in about a minute. The latest show.
Well, what he doesn't seem to realize is the whole idea behind the Second Amendment is to protect the people from the government. What are we going to have? 22s and BB guns? Yeah, we can take down mice and squirrel and stuff. Great. But what's the point of the Second Amendment? Does Ed even know? I would guess not. And if he does know and he's still pushing this ridiculousness, then obviously he's guilty of treason.
The latest poll shows that 62% of Americans favor a ban on these massive ammo drums and magazines. Democrats are asking for the bare minimum, a simple ban on high-capacity clips.
Not all Democrats are asking for it. Some Democrats actually believe in the right to bear arms. Some Democrats actually are for freedom. The fact that certain Democrats are against freedom should tell people something. And any Republicans that would support a ban on guns should also be held equally responsible. There definitely should not be anybody in Congress who would vote to limit my right or anyone else's right to bear arms or magazines or bullets.
But Congress's newest Republicans are already saying no. The incoming head of the Judiciary Committee says gun control is not going to be something I would support. Other Republicans with key leadership positions won't take a stand or say that they won't consider any gun ban at all. One actually tried.
They better come out and take a stand, because if they don't, they definitely won't be getting reelected.
To outlaw background checks and waiting periods in his home state. This is your incoming class of Republicans. Congressional members have to choose. They can give in to the NRA or they can protect America's children.
You see how they always try to create a straw man argument? They're trying to make it as if the NRA is this big bad bully that goes around and pushes everybody around. The truth is the NRA is not really fighting for our rights. There's too many times that I can remember in recent history that the NRA voted for or supported legislation that would deny me the right to carry certain guns or ammo or whatever. So clearly the NRA is not there to defend my rights. In fact, they very well could be there as a guise. As people get distracted, they think that all of their rights are being protected, so they see that this big group is out there and they've got all the media complaining about this big group, so everybody just assumes that their rights are being protected, and it's totally not true. Everybody has to defend their own rights, and if you don't defend them and if you don't stand up for them, nobody else will.
With reasonable reform. I'm joined tonight by Katrina Vanden Heuvel, editor and publisher of The Nation magazine, and Jonathan Alter, MSNBC political analyst and columnist for Bloomberg View. Great to have both of you with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
The pulse of the country has changed. Katrina?
The pulse has changed, but one thing we must do is end the NRA stranglehold on our politics. You know, I think it's important to remember, Ed, that the NRA has some 4 million members, but there are 100 million gun owners in this country who support common sense legislation to reduce gun violence. The NRA represents the gun industry more than it does its rank and file members who...
Actually, the NRA represents the government. They're certainly not representing my rights. I would suggest that maybe gun owners of America would be somebody that would be more likely. Of course, I don't join either group. I don't believe in joining groups like that. I believe in collaboration. So if they have some information they want to share with me, great, and I'll share whatever information I have with them if they're interested. But I don't like the idea of joining groups and letting them speak for me, letting them go and stand in Congress and tell Congress what I think, because they don't know unless they've polled me and they've asked me, and then they go and say, Todd believes this. Poker Face said that, you know, that's great. Otherwise, no. There is no reasonable gun control laws. There are none, because any law is only listened to by law-abiding citizens. We keep going over this.
According to a poll by Republican Frank Luntz, NRA members support common sense gun control legislation. I think we need to make this moment a moment where Americans are angry, are outraged, make it into a movement. And we need Americans to tell their legislators they're fed up enough. We don't want to see guns out of control. More guns, more bullets mean more kids dead.
Jonathan, a lot on the table here.
So they're changing the debate. They're trying to change the tone of the debate, the wording of the debate. And as they go along, they're going to explain it. And it's just, I think it's very interesting, and hopefully people that are listening and that are awake won't be fooled by the tone change. Because instead of using the word gun control, they're going to get rid of that word. They're going to use some other word like reasonable gun legislation. You know, there is no such thing. I can't even think of a single law that is reasonable that really protects me. The only thing that protects me from criminals that are armed are my neighbors and myself. Because by the time the cops get here, all they're going to find is something to put in a body bag. I'm not saying I don't want the police to come. I just want them to come and collect the trash. And Stand Your Ground needs to protect people like me so that I don't have to go to jail and make big explanations and have to fight for my right. Look, if the people come and try to hurt me, then I'm going to shoot, just like George did with Trevon. If Trevon had kept his hands to himself, he'd still be here today causing trouble to the bus drivers and everybody else that he used to bug, whatever. In the meantime, they're trying to take away people's rights, and that's why the Trevon case even came to a national head. It all had to do with gun rights. They were trying to kill Stand Your Ground. But the funny thing is, it actually increased the amount of people that have carry permits. More people today are getting carry permits because of all this anti-gun stuff than ever before. We've got more people. Over 1 million people in Florida right now have carry permits.
heavy a lift is this?
Well, these bills that are introduced right now aren't going to go anywhere. The big action is going to be after Vice President Biden reports back his findings to the president, and then in February or March they introduce what will be a holistic anti-violence package. It will.
So they know that the Republicans in the House who control the House are definitely not going to pass any anti-gun laws. And so they know that's not going to go anywhere. And the Democrats in the Senate, some of them are from pro-gun states. They're not going to allow anything to go anywhere right now. It's just not going to happen. They could and they would, but they know that the president's got something up his sleeve, and it's not until February or March that it's going to come out. He set up a little committee that's going to report back to him and tell him exactly what's in the laws that they've already created, probably the Dianne Feinstein law that says that Americans should not have access to guns except if you need it for your job, you're a police officer or something like that, or if you want to go shooting at a range, the range would contain the guns, and you would just go to the range, use the guns, and then leave them there. We know this is the plan because we heard the little girl's wish on TV by the elite media had allowed the parents to tell everybody the little girl's wish, and that was her big wish, that the guns stay in their place wherever it is and they can't go out. You can't have them in your home or anything else. So that's probably going to be it. And he'll probably try to pass it as a executive order so that he can bypass the Congress and the House of Representatives. Apparently, he doesn't realize that the House of Representatives can override any of those executive orders, and it just seems to me strange that he doesn't realize that. Maybe he thinks that maybe he's going to create an executive order that says that the Republican Party can't exist anymore and that their votes don't count anymore. Who knows what he's going to come up with? It just seems strange that the American people have allowed him to do all this stuff, and then he gets reelected. Of course, I don't believe in the election system, and I don't believe that the electronic voting computers are valid, or that they, so I don't believe that he won re-election honestly. And I have evidence to prove that the machines are created that are made to do the dirty work of changing the vote. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that the least popular president in the history of the world ever got reelected. And not only that, it was in an economy that was the worst ever. And no president ever got reelected with such a terrible economy and so much extra debt. I mean, he promised to reduce the debt, and he increased it. He promised not to raise taxes, and he raised taxes. Look, immediately after he got reelected, guess what? Taxes go up on everybody, even the poor people. Everybody's getting a tax increase. And it's just interesting, because all those people that supported him are now going, there must be scratching their head, or maybe they think that it's okay. The end justifies the means. Whatever it takes to get there, that's what it takes, and they don't care.
Not be a gun control measure. In fact, nobody, especially those like Katrina and me, who really want a campaign against the NRA, a movement against the NRA, none of us should call it gun control. All that does is play into that. We should ban the phrase gun control. If we're going to talk about guns at all, it should be common sense gun safety, with common sense preceding everything. A lot of it's about language.
And that's it. There it is. He just told you. They are going to try to trick you because they think you're too stupid. They think that if you believe that we're talking about gun control, then that's bad. Gun control is bad, but common sense gun regulation, protecting the children, see, that all fits. And he just told you he's totally against guns, and that now they just need to change the words.
I think that's fair, but I
reframe the debate.
I agree. You have to reframe the debate so it's not individual freedom versus government control. It's about...
How perfect. What a perfect statement. Government control, and she just said it. There it is. So the point is, You either have government in control or you have the people in control. You decide. I decide. And since we are the people, we decide. And we've all decided from the very beginning. And if you don't like the way it is now, you can change the Constitution. We actually have a method for changing the Constitution. If you want to change the Constitution to say that we have no rights and that the founders were wrong about the God-given rights that were listed in the Bill of Rights, fine. Or better yet, why don't you just sign off? Why don't you just sign an affidavit that says you reject the Bill of Rights for yourself, that you no longer want to have the right to bear arms, and stop pushing me around, because remember, it's these people that are the same people that are trying to push us are the ones that are saying that certain people are trying to push their morality by telling people who they can marry, whether they can marry gay or not and all that stuff, but at the same time, they're trying to push their morality on me about guns when they say, well, your guns are dangerous to me. No, they're not. No more than my car. In fact, my car is much more dangerous. My 4,000 pounds of steel going 100 mile an hour through your living room, I think is a little more dangerous than, one of these little bullets. And my car can find you on the street. And most of the time when you get run over by somebody's car, they don't even go to jail. Guess why? Because it was an accident. Oops, I didn't see you. Oops, I lost control. I was reaching down to pick up something. I was trying to change the radio station, and I drove up onto the sidewalk and ran you over. Oops, no jail time, no arrest. They're just anti-gun because they're pro-government control. They like the idea of having a government completely in control of you, and that you are too stupid to take control for yourself, that you can't be a sovereign citizen. You absolutely have to be under the control of the government.
Public safety. But you know what I think? Potent allies in this, Ed, are the mayors against illegal guns. 700 mayors in cities and towns, suburban towns across this country, police chiefs. There was a reason that Vice President Biden, in the first meeting of his task force, brought in police chiefs who don't.
So Joe Biden brings in the police chiefs. He brings in the mayors. He brings them into his office. Says, I'm the vice president. Look how wonderful I am. Isn't that great? And then he tells them, listen, I need you guys to support this stuff for me. So they do. Why? Because he's offering them stuff. He's bribing them. It's illegal to bribe our officials. So whenever you hear a police chief or every time you hear a mayor suggesting that your rights should be reduced on how you have guns or how you carry your guns or anything like that, you just remember that. And if you ever have an opportunity to ask him, go ahead and ask him. Have you spoken with Joe Biden? Have you been promised anything? It's sick.
These assault weapon guns that are for battlefields, not for...
Sure. Also, 4 million in the NRA is not very big.
And like I said, these are not assault weapons. These are not military-grade weapons. These are standard semi-automatic weapons. You have to pull the trigger each time you want a bullet to come out. It doesn't sit there and fully automatic fire. If you want to buy one of those, they're perfectly legal in the United States, and many people have them. All you have to do is pay the tax. That's what the ATF is. The BATF is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. They are a bureau of tax collectors. That's what they do. They go around and make sure that everybody pays the tax. Their original battle was during Prohibition, hence alcohol. And as they lost out on the ability to do a lot of pushing people around with alcohol after Prohibition, they went after those bad people who would dare to roll cigarettes and sell them without paying the tax. And later, firearms. How dare people saw off a shotgun? And who would really care? I mean, a sawed-off shotgun, what does that do? It just sprays the spray wider. That's all it does. And it's basically just for home protection. It's not going to do you a lot of good outside. So it's really a pretty good tool inside of a house to have a sawed-off shotgun, because guess what? With birdshot, it won't even go through the walls. So when you're shooting it in the house, it's most likely not going to hurt anybody except the guy you're firing it at. And you're not going to miss because it's going to spread pretty good. The more spread, the less likely it's going to go through a wall and kill your child. All of their restrictions so far are ridiculous. And if the truth were to be told, the crime rate with guns has gone down steadily over the years since we let the previous gun ban expire. Every year, gun crimes have reduced themselves. Over time, this is the lowest crime with guns has been over in the history since 1949, I believe the paper said. So as crime is reduced and less violent crimes are committed with guns, now they want to pass more gun legislation because of a few, and I mean a few. One guy here in a theater, one guy over here in a school. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of millions of guns in the hands of hundreds of millions of Americans without a problem. And then we get one guy here and one guy there. They've got, since 1996, they say there was 61 of these kind of shootings with 61 of these kind of crazy people. Since 96, 16 years. And the funny thing is, they don't want to look at what happened before that, because the truth is, all their social engineering is what's causing this stuff. Kids in years prior to that were taught about good things, about God, and about what is a positive impact that they can have on their society, what they can do good for people. Today, they're just taught to get along and just be good little sheeple, willing to do whatever the government says. And when the government tells you to do something, you just better do it, because it's what's good for you and it's what's good for the rest of them.
That's right.
AARP has many more. President Obama has 16 million names in Organizing for America. Those people can be mobilized to build
Make it a movement.
To change this and reframe it. And you can.
So Obama's got 16 million names of people that are willing to come and argue to take away our rights. And he's just on the edge, ready to do it. Of course, now he doesn't have to worry about re-election, so the next 4 years, he's free to go. Whatever, it's on.
Throw in some things about mental health. It doesn't just have to be about guns. You can have.
See there? That's just one more reason to take away your rights, you know? Look, we've listened to you, and we think you're a little psycho because you think that you have a right to bear arms, you know? So they might go through all of our YouTube videos and into your comments on YouTube or whatever and say, hey, this just is evidence that you've got a problem. So we're going to have to take away your rights.
The elements of this package that appeal to other people.
Could the president take some executive action?
Yes, and I think you saw the mayors against illegal guns.
So there he said it. Can the president take some executive action? So there it is. She said, yes, yes. And then she jumps right to the mayors and how we're going to use the mayors and the president and his executive orders.
In 2009, drew up a set of steps a president could take after the Gabby Gifford shooting. It's reported that the Department of Justice at the White House's bequest did so. You could see a ban on assault weapons. You could see simple things like, could we get in a director of alcohol, firearms, tobacco? There hasn't been one for 6 years.
So she just said it, that the president, through executive order, could ban weapons, certain kinds of weapons that he finds objectionable, weapons that are not causing crimes, weapons that are, in fact, they said the AR-15 was the thing that they found in the trunk, but we know better. It was most likely a shotgun, because you can see the huge shotgun shell fly out and land on the ground next to it. So, you know, they're just trying to ban certain guns, and they're talking about certain guns that they don't like. And immediately people are assuming that these must be pretty good guns, that the government wants to ban them. That's why everybody's buying them up.
Because of obstruction, tracking of criminal weapons, interstate strike forces, so you don't have these illegal guns floating.
The single most important thing, just to prioritize.
You may need to without a filibuster reform, by the way, because you can't get it through. You may not be able to get it through the Senate without even some, you know, Democrats like Manchin of West Virginia.
So she's saying because the Senate, even the Senate, requires a 60 vote minimum to make something happen. So, and the Democrats have 55 votes. They're really going to need the president to use this executive order thing to get it through. We can't get it through the Senate. We can't get it through the House. So let's just do this other thing, because the president's already proven that he doesn't care about the Constitution. He's already proven that. He just does whatever he wants. And he's already said that he's going to continue using these drones on whoever he likes, including Americans. He's already killed Americans with the drones. There's no doubt about that. And he's already said that he takes responsibility for all drone strikes because he approves them before they happen. So, anyone who thinks that they're safe when you've got a president who said he'll shoot somebody who, and remember, the people that he shot weren't even under arrest. They didn't have a warrant out for their arrest. They didn't even know they were wanted. No one asked them to come in and answer questions or anything. Just, the one of them was a child, 16-year-old boy having a barbecue with his cousin, and they both got killed. But they want to take away our right to defend ourselves. They don't want us to have guns. Why do they care? I mean, he's got drones.
Virginia and Warner of Virginia have been traditionally unwilling to move. They're now saying in the wake.
Starting to move. So a lot of this is just legislative skill, but it's very important to focus on that gun show loophole, because 40% of gun sales are done around the regulation. That these private gun sales, it needs to be turned into a felony if you make an illegal gun sale, and the gun show loophole has to be closed. Otherwise,
there is no gun show loophole, and I've said this several times. The gun show loophole that they keep talking about is, they say when you go to a gun show, the people that sell the guns at gun shows don't have to do background checks, and that's just not true. Any gun show sale is exactly like any other sale. You could go to a gun shop and buy a gun, or go to a gun show and buy a gun. It's exactly the same process. So they're lying to you. Because they're liars. That's what they do. They lie. The truth is, individuals here in Florida can buy and sell guns between each other, and the only thing that we have to do is verify that the person's a Floridian. No background check. Has nothing to do with a gun show. It doesn't have to be I might see a sign on the side of the road that says, I sell guns, and I can wing by there and say, let's see what you got. And the guy's got whatever. I buy it. Oh, cool. Here's my ID. Thanks a lot. The guy is not required to keep my information, so if the police came to him and said, hey, where's that gun? He could say, I sold it. And they'd say, where'd it go? And he'd say, I don't know. And that's the end of that. And that's really pissing off the federal government. They don't like that. At the same time, they're handing guns over the border to these Mexican cartels that are known criminals that they know are going to use AK-47s and AR-15s in a terrible way, and they're going to kill honest, good people. And they're killing people right now with thousands of guns that are over there, and we can't get them back. Those guns would not be over there killing people right now if it wasn't for the federal government allowing it. The federal government told the gun shop seller to go ahead and allow the sale to pass on through. They're responsible. And to me, it's just another false flag attack where they try to make it look like the American people with their rights are out of control, so we have to limit their rights. And that's what the plan was with this whole thing, and they got caught. So they'll just do another thing. They just blow it off and go to the next thing. Let's do this, let's do that, and they just keep coming up with a new one and another one and a new one and another one. So if this last one doesn't work, they'll just get you with another one. Sooner or later, they're going to get us. So we have to tell them these false flag attacks are not working. We don't believe it. We don't agree, and you're just hurting people. Even if you're not actually killing them, and you just say you say that they died, but they didn't really die, those people have their lives messed up.
I just think we have to remember, yes, we need safety, we need public safety, but don't remember that the NRA is really made up of Republican operatives, lobbyists like Grover Norquist. They don't even represent their rank and file members, let alone the 100 million gun owners in this country who seek.
That's right, because if they did represent us, they would not be seeking these reasonable gun control laws. Now, of course, they're not going to say gun control. Remember, they banned that from their vocabulary because they know the American people are against it.
Common
Yeah,
sense.
there's only a fraction of gun owners in this country that are even associated with the National Rifle Association,
right.
but they're a political arm and they're a force to be reckoned with, and they're already making headways and getting teachers armed, and that is another discussion that we'll bring you back.
Ooh, that really upsets them. How dare the NRA support arming the teachers? I mean, when I was growing up, as far as I knew, all my teachers had a gun if they wanted to, and nobody really cared. I was perfectly safe with the thought that my teacher had a gun. They had scissors. They had all kinds of sharp things in the room that they could hurt the children if they wanted to. It's so ridiculous. They just
Talk about it. It's crazy, but that's exactly where they are. Katrina Vanden Heuvel and Jonathan Alter, great to have you with us tonight.
Anyway, that's the end of that, and I just wanted to point out how ridiculous these people are, and that now they've changed the tone of the conversation. They will not use the word gun control anymore. They are going to use sensible gun laws instead, because they want people who are people don't want to be looked at as extreme. Some people, that is. And so they want to go along to get along. So they'll say, "Oh yeah, I agree with sensible gun laws." And like I said in the beginning of this, there is no such thing as a sensible gun law. All gun laws that in any way infringe, restrict, question my right to bear arms of any kind to protect myself in any way from anyone, including the federal government, is a treasonous action. Anyone that would do it is guilty of treason. And if you Google the penalties in the United States for treason, you'll see it's quite harsh, very harsh. It's just hard to believe that people are even discussing limiting the rights of law-abiding gun owners to not only to have, but to bear their guns. And even when the Supreme Court says that you're not allowed to have a certain gun or something, believe me, the Supreme Court is part of the federal government. And the Supreme Court just as easily could go rogue and take away our rights. Just because the name is the Supreme Court doesn't give them the right to take away the rights of the people. And they've already ruled in a lot of ways that have already reduced our rights. So it's just a very small thread until they push it all the way over. And that's when, at some point the people are going to say enough is enough, and the people will do whatever it takes to resolve that problem. It's your duty as an American to defend yourself, your family, your state, and your country with your armor, your guns, and it's your job to make sure that you have sufficient ammo and guns to do the job. And that is from enemies that are internal and external to the country. So if we had the Japanese try to come in and take over, or the Chinese come in and take over, our guns should be at the ready, and they should be used in that way.